comfortable place on your mat. If you wanted to bring this into a little bit of hip rotation and opening, you could always take the feet into supine butterfly. I'm going to leave this first pose really up to each of you to just kind of find what you need. So that might look like a recline pose over top of a bolster to create space across the chest. It could just be a shavasana. It could be seated meditation. So you have the agency to essentially you have the agency to just choose what is best for you here. Okay. And then once you've kind of settled into this space, you can just start to close into your eyes. Allow your eyes to rest heavy. So the reason that I chose the Goddess of Disappointment, Dhumavati, is because she's actually not a goddess most of us have heard of in Hindu mythology or even through yoga practices or yoga teachings. And she's one that I really resonate with, and I think because she's so far out of the ordinary. And it sounds a little bit depressing to think that we're honoring this goddess of disappointment, but in this practice, what she teaches us is the freedom when we learn to let go. And letting go is so intricately tied to non-attachment. Non-attachment is one of the foundations of these yoga principles, the yamas and the niyamas. And I think it's something that we're all really going through right now of navigating these pretty choppy waters of what was and what is, and learning to let go of this idea of what normal was and just stepping into what is available right here, right now. Okay, so with that being said, just start to notice your surroundings, just start to notice what's available here for you. You can let go of however your day started. You can let go of whatever this looked like previous to you landing on your mat. And you can just start to feel into the movement of your breath. Into the space that's available for you to just land here despite any distractions around you. Allow yourself to go beneath these layers of the physical body and just notice how you've landed energetically. If your energy is feeling really full today, or if it's feeling a little bit low. Can you just honor how you've landed? So there's not this expectation for your practice. Okay? That we're sending ourselves love no matter how this looks right now. But you just landing here is enough. And without these expectations, when we allow ourselves to let go of our attachment to how we think things should be or how they've been before or how we want them to go, that we are also able to let go of the disappointments, to let go of things not meeting our requirements, of just letting go of these labels and judgments of our practice, even of ourselves. If you're worthy of a beautiful rest of your day, no matter how today started. And that maybe right here, right now, is that shift that you choose to take, that you take that agency to move away from the attachment. So we're just gonna take a little bit of a breathing exercise to start. And it's really more of a mantra included with the breath. Okay, so the mantra is just simply let go. And so as you inhale, allow the word let to form within your mindscape. And then as you exhale, find that word go. So your internal dialogue is just repeating let with the inhales and go with the exhales. And just start to find this rhythm of your breath. Inhale to let. Exhale, go. And just continue with this movement, with this mantra. The first couple of times you repeat it to yourself, it might feel a little bit silly, it might feel awkward or strange. But really let yourself just dive into this opportunity to release. Even letting go of what this looks like, what this feels like, and just, taking a chance, taking that leap that maybe there's something there for you to release. It could be the physical body that you're letting sink deeper and deeper. It could be anything that happened earlier today or this week. Inhale, let. Exhale, go. Maybe allowing you to clear some space in your mind to just simply be here with your breath, with this mantra, okay, with whatever is right here, right now. Take 3 more breaths with that mantra. Maybe allowing your body to rest heavier each time you say the word go, that you really, really sink down. And then after that 3rd breath, just hold yourself in a bit of a pause. So still allowing your breath to move at this slow, fluid space, but you don't have to be anywhere, you don't have to do anything. That in this moment of stillness, you're doing enough. You can, when you're ready, if you need some more time in stillness to just land, please take that, whether it's this pose or any other pose. And then when you're ready, you'll just start to untangle your body, unfold. If you are seated, make your way onto your back. We're gonna start there today. And it might feel nice to take a big full body stretch. So you can reach your toes and take your arms overhead and just extend through the body. And as you exhale, you'll just allow yourself to sink in. What's really beautiful about this home practice is you can allow this movement to be whatever you need. So if you want to curl in tight, that might also be an option. You might just gently rock your knees side to side. Okay, so just starting to wake up the body just enough that the physical body is now invited back into the present moment if we've lost this connection with physical body. And then extend out once again. For Banana Asana, legs are long. Arms reach overhead. Now arms can be straight, or you could cactus the arms or reach for opposite. Hands, wrists, elbows. Okay. And slowly begin to walk your heels towards the bottom right corner of your mat. Now you might cross one heel over top of the other, so one ankle. Or feet might be spread apart or big toes to touch. So lots of different variations you can choose. And then begin to guide your hands over towards the top right corner. And check in with your spine before you settle into this shape. You want to make sure your left hip and left shoulder are equally rooted into your mat, as is the right side of your body. Otherwise, you're actually slightly twisting the spine. So we want to take out that twist and just come into lateral flexion, the opening of the side body. Okay, arms If this is a lot with arms overhead straight, you can always take your right arm down beside you. You can always bring your left arm back through center. So the more you move over towards the right side of your mat, the more length you're going to feel in this shape through the left side body. Those of you with lower back issues, or it just tends to get a little bit sore in this pose, either come into less depth, or you can actually take the shape with your legs, that as you move your heels over, your right leg will actually bend and plant, and then it's just the length through your left leg. So with your right foot planted, knee up to the ceiling, it just gives you a little bit more stability to roll the left hip towards the earth. Okay. So staying here in Banana Asana, you might notice as you first shifted into this pose that there is a little bit of stickiness. It might not have landed perfectly in the body, and that's okay. That it's okay to be stiff. It's okay to be a little bit uncertain of how we're landing, because we have this freedom to just explore, to kind of navigate these shifts and land yourself somewhere eventually that you feel like you can just hold, somewhere that you can really feel safe and secure, and somewhere that you can just simply breathe. So this goddess that today's class is inspired by. Throughout our class, I'll just tell you little stories about her, about the power we have when we tap into her energy, and really the gifts that she brings us. So if this is something that really resonates with you, you don't have to remember it, just stay open to receiving whatever knowledge is there for you, even if it's not really resonating, to just allow yourself to be a vessel for information, for words, emotions to move through. So Dhumavati, this goddess of disappointment, she's drastically different than the other goddesses. Unlike the other goddesses who are painted gold, are beautiful, are youthful, she's depicted as poor, elderly. She looks disheveled and withered. And I think this is so unique that we're honoring this goddess that doesn't meet those expectations of what we would consider a goddess or a princess or even a feminine figure to look up to. And what she offers us are these certain gifts that we actually attain if we're willing to navigate the disappointment, if we're willing to sit with the discomfort, because there's so much freedom available when we let go. So wherever you are in this shape, can you begin to find that physical freedom where you stop trying so hard, where you just soften your shoulders away from your ears. You let your body rest heavy into the mat, because there's this trust that the earth will hold you up and that you don't have to do the work, that it's okay to not be in control of everything. Can you just let go of this need to come into this perfect pose or depth, and even dial it back a little bit if it's feeling a little abrasive or the pose feels like a lot of sensation. Take 3 more breaths as you are, and bring back in that mantra of the inhale, let, and exhale, go. And take your time, gracefully navigate back through center, upper body might side over, and then feet can walk their way back into center. When you're ready, bring both knees into your chest and give yourself a gentle hug. As you let your knees rest heavy towards your heart, over top of your belly, feel an opening and that space being created in your low back. And when you're ready, keep your right knee into your chest, and you'll gently float your left foot onto your mat. And cross your right ankle over top of your left thigh. So you're coming into a figure 4 shape. Flex into that right foot. So your right toes point up towards the ceiling or are drawing up towards the right shin. And then figure 4 twist. Have your hands down beside you just for a moment. You're gonna pick up your hips, pressing into the sole of your left foot, and then shift your hips all the way over to the right. You can heel toe your left foot over as well. And then you'll slowly lower your knees over to the left. So your right foot will actually plant on the ground. Now, if the ground isn't available, this is where you can use blocks or really thick books. You could use pillows so that you just have that depth, that you feel grounded in this pose. I really like the bind in this pose. So that's your left hand wraps your right foot or ankle or shin. And then you can bring your gaze over your right shoulder. Now, with that being said, if this twist is not for you today, that you don't have to be disappointed with the body, that there doesn't have to be any judgment. You'll just simply come out of this, release the cross of your legs. Hips will still be over to the right, and then you'll just drop both knees over to the left. So whether you want to place props underneath your knees or in between, just take these first few minutes in each of the poses, or first few breaths, however long it really takes you to get comfortable. Okay. Figure 4 twist, if you're looking for a little bit more sensation. The leg that's crossed over, so your right leg, you can play with pressing your right knee further away from your belly, maybe towards the top of your mat, or your right hip's gonna be lifted, so you can play with rolling your right hip towards the ground. Once again, allowing your eyes to just rest heavy. You let go of any attachments to anything outside of this pose. To just break free of these chains that we place ourselves in without even really realizing it. And these chains of who we think we need to be in this moment, of how we need to feel, and just to simply give yourself a space to be. Okay. Whoever you are, wherever you're at. You gotta let go of this image of whether or not your day was successful, of whether or not you did enough. You let go of this fear of any losses that you've been experiencing, the collective grief that the world is going through. And just remind yourself that in this moment, you are safe. You're grounded. You're breathing. And you have choice. You have the choice to hold on to all the things that keep you heavy, that hold you back. Or you have the choice to let go. And in that release, finding freedom. So where can you allow yourself this space to just let go in this moment? If that mantra is really working for you today, it feels comfortable to land in, or it feels really safe to just repeat, let go. You can bring this in throughout class. Sometimes you don't even need the mantra, and you can just use the breath as breathing in what you need, and as you exhale, just letting thoughts, emotions, judgments also release with the exhale breath. So just letting those exhales flow out. So as we just come towards the end of this pose, just bring a little bit more mindfulness to anything that you feel like you're holding onto, and where you can begin to create space to release that. And then on your next inhale breath, and just slowly begin to unwind back through center. We'll slowly lift the knees up. If your legs are crossed, if you chose figure 4, you can gently release. It might feel nice to walk your feet out wide, and then just gently to drop your knees over to the left and over to the right. Physical movement to wash out the hips. We'll come back to Banana Asana. We're going to come back. We're going to first start with the same twist on the other side. Okay, so whenever you're ready, you'll move any props that you had used the first twist over to the other side so they're available for you. Okay. Left knee picks up, so your left ankle crosses your right thigh. Hands pressing into your mat. You'll shift your hips up and over to the left. Right foot can walk in, and then when you're ready, you'll slowly just drop your knees over to the right so that your left foot now plants on the ground. Arms can come out wide, cactus overhead. If you are binding, it might be that right hand to your left foot or shin or ankle. And then play with some movement that it's a little bit fluid as you come into this pose. So that movement might not be available to the outside observer, but it's definitely noticeable for you that there's a little bit of lift as you breathe in. There's a little bit of grounding or release as you breathe out. So that we're starting to embody this mantra of letting go. And with each breath, allowing yourself to sink deeper into this connection of yourself as you just shed these layers of image, as you shed these layers of accomplishment, of status. One of the reasons Dhumavati really came to mind for today's practice is because I've really been battling with this comparison, and I think a lot of us as well, being so connected through social media, but also those triggers that happen when we see other people's lives and everything they're accomplishing and doing, and feeling like we don't have enough time, we don't have enough energy, we just don't have we don't have the capacity to maybe do those things, to learn 100 new hobbies, or be world's top parent and theme day for our kids every day. And even as a yoga teacher, to really find that balance between how much you're giving and how much you're giving back to yourself as well. We're not putting ourselves through burnout to meet these unrealistic expectations. And this is really that power of this goddess to break free of that chain of what is success right now. There are some days success might just be getting out of bed and putting on a pair of jeans in the morning. And maybe success is getting through the day without a fight, or it's showing up for your kids or your family, that we don't have to measure success by anybody else's standards, and we can even break our own barriers to this image. And so instead of resisting the disappointment that comes with these unattainable or lofty goals or labels, that we just simply allow ourselves to be. And it's not that we won't feel disappointment, but that we recognize that when we release that disappointment, we create freedom. This wisdom of non-attachment. I think as well as we move through all of this, that there's a little bit of guilt or shame that we hold when we are upset about the loss of certain aspects of our lives, of who are we to be upset with that when, you know, I still have a job, or I still have a roof over my head, I'm still surviving, that we feel bad for feeling bad. And this is really abandoning ourselves, of saying that whatever we're feeling in that moment isn't okay. And so perhaps as you also tap into any disappointment, any frustration, anything that's come up today or this week, that you give yourself permission to just feel that, and then just simply breathe out. Just breathe through it. And breathing is that lesson in letting go. So almost through this side of the twist, can you even just give yourself more space to breathe? On your next inhale breath, you'll just gently unwind back up through center. You can untangle your legs. I'll leave this variation of transition up to you. So if it felt nice to wash knees side to side, you can take that. You can curl your knees in, you can extend out. Okay, so you just take whatever you need in this shape. Eventually extending out again for Banana Asana over to the left. So your heels will begin to walk over, arms, maybe shoulders. So there's a slight contraction through the left side. And there's this really great elongation through the right side of the body. And then instead of trying to find depth with the physical body, can you actually just allow yourself to breathe? That it's through breath that we actually begin to find this depth. And to really start to look at, is depth a measure of success? Is it really so important to get deep in this pose? Or is there more freedom when we learn to let go and just ease back to a place that has more space for us to be in the present moment? Is there more room for us to express, to live, when we learn to let go of these expectations, whether they're our own or from the outside? Essentially, that we start to learn the freedom of just living life for ourselves. relaxed, even in this space, you begin to free your heart from worry. You free your heart from any grievance, any fear. And you begin to just soak up this wisdom that's hidden in your heart's most difficult moments. I know I've said it before, and I'm sure I'll say it again, that sometimes your greatest teacher is the heartbreak. Not necessarily just with relationships, but heartbreak in general, those moments that really challenge us to show up. Those moments that we didn't think we'd get through end up becoming pivotal moments of change in our lives, where we have this opportunity to learn such beautiful lessons. And I think for me, the lesson of this goddess is the reminder of our fundamental humanness, our vulnerability to feel, and then our capacity to let that go. Take 3 more giant breaths. And acknowledge the space between the inhales and the exhales. And that space before you begin to let go, where you really just sink in. And maybe in that space, inviting in what you need to come into this place of release or non-attachment. Some patience with yourself, some courage, some love. And that you can call upon that as you breathe in. And then just let go of anything that's not serving you in that moment as you breathe out. Gently nestle your way back through to center. I always like to draw the knees in after a really juicy banana or being on our back for a long time, just to create some space into lumbar spine and low back. So that might feel nice. And then if you're craving movement, you might just gently rock knees side to side, or you can even circle the knees to get a little bit more range of motion, of massaging out those muscles and connections. Okay. And then we'll gently begin to release down and just roll yourself over to your right hand side. Head can rest heavy into your right bicep and close into your eyes. This pose, fetal position, it's an opportunity for rebirth. So leaving whatever you need to behind so you can step into this space, into this newness throughout the rest of your practice. When you're ready, you'll just use your left hand to press yourself up, and we'll meet into tabletop facing the front of your mat. Okay, I always love this just as playful exploration. So you can shift your hips side to side, forward, back. You might cat-cow, but especially after laying on our backs for about half of the practice, that it can feel really nice just to rinse out your body. Okay, take any sips of water, just kind of gather what you need to move forward. 2 options for your next pose. So you can either take half pigeon or deer. So I'll cue you through half pigeon first. If you want to take this from down dog, that can be a nice transition. It's just a little bit more active. So I'll show you from tabletop, but same principles will follow. So right knee will begin to draw forward towards your right wrist, and then take your right ankle towards the left side of your mat. Okay. And then slowly lower your back knee if it's lifted, and you'll begin to slide your left toes back behind you. Okay. And walk your hands up and towards your hips. So you're stacking your shoulders over top of your hips. Okay. Now you're welcome to stay up here, come into the sleeping variation of this pose. And if you are folding forward, take your belly down first, then your heart, then your head. Okay. In half pigeon, it's really important that you keep your hips square so that you're not putting a lot of pressure onto that front knee. So you might take a block underneath your front hip. If you come into this and today it's not for your body, or you're feeling especially stiff and it's like a war is waging within, take deer shape instead. So similar movement, you'll take your right knee forward, right ankle to the left side of your mat, and then lower onto your right hip with your back knee bent. So you're creating that pinwheel shape of the legs. Similar to pigeon, you'll begin to lean forward, but this time your hips aren't perfectly square. So your left hip is lifted, and you can play with moving more to the right or more to the left. So just playing with whatever variation in deer serves you. Okay, so it doesn't have to be perfectly forward, whereas pigeon or swan, you'll want to keep the body square to the front. Use any props or blocks, pillows that you need to keep you supported and comfortable, so that you don't feel like you're having to hold yourself up, that the ground can really support you here, and any props that you choose to use. Just checking in with, if you are holding tension, a big place is head, neck, and shoulders. So if you can support your head, whether you stack your fists or you bring props underneath your forehead so that the back of your neck can be long and relaxed. Shoulders can glide away from your ears. And so pigeon, for some of us, or even deer, it might feel like there's a little bit more going on. And so it's especially in times like these where the chaos starts to seep in, maybe where our groundedness, where our center starts to collapse. Okay. Our feeling of being rooted and supported starts to fade, and the mind starts to roll heavy around. And so this is where you can really start to call upon that wisdom of Dhumavati, of how can you keep your equilibrium here? How can you find balance when your present moment is a little bit shaky? When it feels perhaps like you're walking on the skinny branches rather than the solid branches of the tree. Can you let go of any agenda that you walked into this practice with, of what this needed to be or what you thought this would look like? Soften into the creases of your face. Relax any gripping of your fingertips. Allow your body to rest heavier towards the earth. And then just take a giant deep breath in through your nose. And completely drop as you exhale, dropping the breath, dropping the body. And let's take 2 more breaths just like that. Inhale to fill up. Exhale to release. 1 more breath. Inhale. And hold at the top. Bring in what you need. And exhale, let go. If you need longer in this shape, you're welcome to stay and just join to the next pose when you're ready. Otherwise, you can just slowly begin to walk your hands up and towards your body. Okay, those of you in pigeon or swan, you're going to shift over to your right hip and bend your back knee so you're back into that deer shape. Okay, it's going to look a little bit different. I'm going to roll towards the left side of your mat so you're on your seat. Take the sole of your left foot into the center line and then extend out your right leg. So you're in half dragonfly. Okay, that front leg, the one that was bent, is going to be the one that gets extended. So you're now going to give it that opportunity of space. Okay. Turn your shoulders to square towards your front toes, so the leg that's extended. And this is where you might want to bring in some blocks or props to fold over top of. So you can take pillows or you can stack some blocks to the inside of your leg. You're just going to simply begin to hinge at your hips and walk your hands towards your toes, draping your body. And really important in folds, especially when we're holding for long periods of time, is to use props if you can. So even if that's just a prop underneath your rib cage, so that the muscles of your spine can completely relax. That this fold is just as much about the lengthening of the back of the right leg or the extended leg as it is about the opening of the spine. So it's a full back body lengthening and release. And if today for you, just sitting upright is enough, know that you can always just pause here. And wherever you've landed, to just close your eyes and let go of perceived depth. I always like to think of depth in yoga poses as the place we land that allows us to feel the most connected, that the depth we choose allows us to be the strongest that we can be in that moment. So we're not piling on more uncertainty, more stress, more tension, but we're giving ourselves the freedom to let that go. When you allow yourself to let go, you create this room to blossom. Because attachments really are these binds of labels. It's like we put ourselves into these little boxes with a label on them and then just put it up in the shelf. And anytime that we feel like we're expanding outside of that box, whether it feels positive or negative, that it's just a growth of some kind. And that even the disappointments that we're feeling are an opportunity for growth. So the opportunity to step outside of that label of what enough looks like and to start to send ourselves some unconditional love. Love that says it doesn't matter if you just got out of bed today and that's it. It doesn't matter if you had the most successful day in your books, that both of those days you are essentially enough. And I think that's a really, really important practice to find here in yoga, because our practice will never be the same day to day. Some days your mind will be really clear and you'll easily fall in step with the practice. And some days will feel a little bit more like a war of constantly trying to be centered, of trying to let go of distractions. So allow yourself to let go of any attachments to that present moment of who you are. Okay, so you're not your practice, you're not the words, you're not the feelings. To let go of those disappointments so that you can really just find freedom to simply be. Gently walk your hands back in towards your body. And then you can walk your hands back, and it might feel nice to lean back into your hands to lift your chest, maybe lift your gaze. You might squeeze shoulder blades together. Now, if this next transition doesn't work for you, you can just bring yourself into either deer or half pigeon on the other side. Okay. For me, I like to walk my hands over top of the left thigh, so you're facing the shorter edge of your mat, and then just picking yourself up to come back into tabletop. And you can shift side to side. When you're ready, your left knee this time will draw forward, left ankle to the right side of your mat. Okay. Extending perhaps out your right toes if you're coming into that pigeon or swan shape, or shifting over to your left hip and bending into your right knee. Okay. You move your props with you, or just move them out of the way if you're not going to use them. Okay. We're just gonna slowly fold when you're ready. So in a lot of these folds today, really trying to support the upper body, because when you're holding yourself up, you're gonna feel that tension in the muscles that's not quite letting you sink into the depth that your body is waiting for. And sometimes when gravity is bringing us into the pose, it can feel too much depth. And so that's where the props come in really handy, is they bridge that gap between too little and too much. And knowing that if you need a little bit more, you just simply release the prop out from underneath or move it a little bit further away so your body can sink down a little bit lower. I think one of the other reasons with this goddess that she really resonates with me is because she really is a goddess of vulnerability. Okay. That we're all gonna go through these ups and downs. We're gonna have disappointments of how certain parts of our life turn out or certain events. But this is also what connects us. This is what makes us human. And so while your disappointment might be one thing, your neighbors, that person in the screen beside you, is also going through their own form of loss, of disappointment. And I think to recognize that we're all just doing the best we can is a source of connection, of authenticity. And so to remember that right here, right now, you're not alone. Okay? You're surrounded online by 16 other people who have chosen to show up to their mat for their own reasons. And to remember that this is a collective. And there's so much safety in this community, in this practice. There is a right to feel, and I think being able to practice from home, we really get to tap into that ability to just let go. We're not worried what people will think. We're not worried that our practice is going to look different, that you really get this chance to just simply be. this vulnerability, can you offer yourself some grace to be as you are? I always come back to this one line of grace, that it's this unmerited favor. That unlike everything else in the world that says, you need to prove to me that you are enough, grace simply says, I see where you are and what you've been through, and I love you anyways. That there's no disappointment with grace. That there's so much freedom to just navigate. So see if you can let yourself navigate through the end of this pose, just with a couple of deep breaths, maybe revisiting your mantra. Inhale, let, exhale, go. Or maybe just enjoying the space that's available right here, right now. Take your time to come out of your half pigeon or deer. Once you come up to more of a seat, you'll roll yourself over to your left hip and onto your tailbone. And then left leg will extend out, and the sole of your right foot will meet the inside of your left leg. Squaring your shoulders to your extended leg. Know that you can always prop up this right knee, or you can plant the foot, that the foot can slide further down or closer in towards the body. And you'll just start to lean forward. You might play with pausing a couple of times in different depths, really just beginning to find the depth that serves you. All the while making sure that you, if possible, have props or blocks to just hold you up. Check in with, what are you willing to let go of in this moment? Or even, what could you start to consider letting go of? So that you have more space, more time, more contentment, or more joy. You know, we often look at letting go as a loss, and that's why it's so scary to step into change, because we look at it as a loss of what was. But letting go offers us this room for new opportunities, for new experiences, for maybe looking at what wasn't working in our life before, and an opportunity to shift that. And I think that that is more powerful than anything else that we might be losing in that moment. You just come back to the rhythm of your breath. And when we got really stuck in all of this work, when our mind starts to wander and it's hard to let go, is just simply to come back to the breath as this reminder that your body is continually going through this cycle of bringing in and releasing, of calling in and letting go. So this last couple of breaths, can you soften into that rhythm? Can you allow yourself to completely empty out so that you have this space for peace and freedom to enter with that next inhale? Gently walk your hands back up in towards your body. You can stay at a neutral spine, or if your body's craving it, you might just lean back into your hands and lift the heart. Maybe your chin lifts up too. And then you'll gently come back through center. You can lift your knee up and bend into your other knee. You might just walk your feet out wide and wash knees over to the left and over to the right. And then we're just setting up for Shavasana. So you'll slowly lower onto your back. If you want to take supported fish or bridge in Shavasana, you're welcome to play with those shapes with your props. Otherwise, just begin to lower down. Pillows underneath your knees can feel nice if your low back feels really unsupported or unstable. Otherwise, just take your feet out long. Toes turn out to the side, palms face up so that you're open to receiving. And you'll just begin to close into your eyes. If you wanted to turn off your music, that's also optional. And just to listen to the sound of your breath. When you think about all of the disappointments that have shown up throughout your life, also recognize that you're still here. You still made it to this point despite all the times we feel like we didn't meet expectation. And I think so much more important than meeting any level of success is just finding our own freedom, of following our own path on our own timeline, because that really is what offers us peace. And so allow these last few moments of your practice just to be fully peaceful. Allow these last few moments to give you the space perhaps you've been lacking. To maybe send some unconditional love your way. That you're worthy of love without these conditions, without having to meet standards. David played, and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, and the major lift, the baffled king composing, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. full breath in. And a long exhale, breath out. Now you're welcome to close off on your back in Shavasana. If you'd prefer to come to seated, you can just gently roll to either side and begin to press your way up. And normally we close off practice with hands at heart center. I want to offer you a different mudra if you feel like taking it today. That with hands at heart center, keep your thumbs and your pinky fingers together, and they'll just gently spread the other fingers apart. So this is your lotus mudra, and this is a really beautiful reminder that you're doing the work, and it's a half lotus, so it's half in bloom. And just to trust that you're doing enough and that we are coming to this place that we're almost ready to bloom. And just like the lotus's journey every morning from the mud through the depths of the dark, murky waters to the lightness and brightness of the surface, that sometimes we do have to work through those disappointments, those challenges, those times where someone tells us no, where we finally begin to just let go and allow ourselves the space and room to bloom, no matter the journey that got us there. With so much love, so much gratitude from the bottom of my heart. Namaste.